Hi Learn 11 class. Welcome to the first video lecture of 3 videos on learning preferences. For this video, we're going to go through slides 1 through 12, and you're going to need your lecture notes beside you so you can fill in the blanks as we go through each of the learning preferences. You'll want to know this for test number 2, and you'll also want an extra piece of paper for a little activity that you're going to do. You're going to pause the video and do a little activity, and then you'll unpause the video to come back, and then you will need this piece of paper in video lecture number 2. Again, you'll be working from those notes. So make sure you have both the learning preference lecture notes that are uploaded for you on Canvas, and also an extra blank piece of paper for note-taking for an activity. And then you're also going to need a copy of your LTM results next to you so that you can take a look at your learning preferences as we move through the different types of learning styles. So you can kind of learn a little bit about what your learning preference style says to you. And this is what the LTM results look like here for you. This is just a sample. And we're going to go through each one of these 4 quadrants of the LTM. What I want you to see here first is that the first line here is your preferred learning style, and there's your number. So this particular student is a learner type 4. And then the next line is your least preferred quadrant, and their least preferred style is 3. And then below that is your watching and doing score. We're going to go through and talk about what each of these means on the scale of negative and positive. And please don't be alarmed. Negative doesn't mean negative and positive means positive. It's just kind of I think maybe a poor way of showing the difference in a way a student approaches learning something new. So the negative sign doesn't mean negative or that there is lacking of anything. And then down below here, you'll see an actual score. So you can see how close you are in different quadrants, because when we talk about the different blending types, we each have a blend of a learning styles that blend to make us a unique kind of learner. So this will tell you how close you are between quadrants. And that'll make a lot of sense when you're choosing or using certain skills, or certain skills are just coming to the surface in different lectures for you naturally. All right, I'm going to switch this screen here so that we can go over to the slides here. So for slide 1, that's our intro. And after this week, you should be able to kind of memorize and understand the different types of preferences. There are only 4 with the LTM. So what each learner preference style is like, and then to be able to explain the differences between watching and doing skills, and of course applying these to yourself. And you'll be able to give examples of stretching exercises for each type of learner and also for yourself. It's important to know all 4 because what we'll talk about later is that instructors also have a learning preference, and many times they teach based on their learning preferences, particularly if they aren't stretching themselves or their fields of expertise really one learning preference outweighs another one. And then also you'll be able to, of course, give examples of applying stretching exercises to yourself and to your learning preference that isn't yours. Maybe the learning preference that's really not your style. And that's what stretching really means. So what I want you to do is pull out a piece of paper, or have that piece of paper I asked you to have that ready, fold it in half so you have a line down the middle. And on one side of the crease, you're going to think of all of the qualities or all of the things that you liked about your favorite teacher. You can think of their teaching qualities, but really think of the kinds of activities that you were doing in that class or for that subject, and also the way that they were teaching you. So were you learning on computers? Were you handwriting? Were there a lot of visuals? Were you drawing? So think of all of the activities and the different ways you were learning in your favorite teacher's class. And then on the other side of the crease, when you finished with that, you're going to do the same thing, but with classes or with particular teachers that you felt you had a challenge, you were challenged, or that maybe you disliked. You might describe it that way. Go ahead and pause this video now as you do that activity. Spend about 5 to 10 minutes on that, and then come back and we'll move on. Okay, welcome back. You should have paused the video to do that little activity, very short lists that you made. We're going to come back to that list later in lecture number 2. So just have that next to you and be ready to pull that out for lecture number 2. All right. We're going to move on to looking at learner type 1 and the different characteristics that come up with learner type 1s. Learner type 1 asks themselves when they're exposed to new material or in the learning environment. The question they ask themselves is, why am I learning this? Or why does this have importance? This is a social type of learner. They really learn through socializing with other students and working in groups. They enjoy group activities because they value personal experience and stories of other learners. So a learner type 1 may ask another student or a classmate in the group, how did you do that? Or how did you learn how to do that? Or how do we do this, rather than going straight to the instructor. They also prefer instructors who are able to use their own experience to teach. They act as mentors for students rather than just lecturing. They motivate students by looking at what students' strengths are, what their gifts are, and kind of acting as a cheerleader for them. They're also able to show the relevance of what students are learning, how it applies to their lives now, in their other classes, and maybe in the career field. Learner type 1s are very interested and focused in individual growth and development. They really want to grow as learners, and they're big picture people. So they want to know how they're going to become better people, better students, and better in their jobs. They also are really looking for personal involvement, what they're learning is going to brighten or help develop them, and how they can be invested. It's very personal. What they're learning is personal to them. It means something. Learner type 2 are our organized and efficient learners. The question they ask themselves is, what would you like me to do? What is the objective here? And what they're looking for is the expert knowledge and step-by-step instruction given to them by their instructor, not other students, but by their instructor. They see their instructors as the experts, and they really want to know what the instructor expects of them. They have a very hard time with open-ended open-ended assignments. For instance, being given an essay with a prompt that asks them to explore. Explore what career you would like to do in the future. And then there are no more guidelines. It's not giving them the length. It's not giving them instruction on where to look for examples of these types of essays, how people have done it before. That kind of open-ended assignment can really cause a lot of anxiety in a learner type 2, because they need they're used to analyzing and reflecting. They may be more they're more prone to working on their own and really organizing information before they hand something in, before they start writing. And if there's nothing to organize and they just have to kind of be comfortable with creating something of their own, of their own without any kind of guidance, this can really, really cause anxiety. They prefer being lectured to, and an organized type lecture that has step-by-step, it kind of not step-by-step doing, but more like one step-by-step in transitions. Like one idea will transition and move into the next one in a very seamless, organized way. One reason that learner type 2s, and probably the main reason learner type 2s don't enjoy working in groups with other students, is because they are so focused on efficiency and being organized. And when they have to depend on other students to work in the same way as them, to be as organized and efficient as them, as their interpretation of what the instructor has assigned them, it can cause anxiety, because they know that they are efficient. They know they understand their own organized methods, and they feel they've interpreted what the instructor has set them out to do in their own way. So it can really throw them off course to hear or to have to allow other students' interpretations in to their group work. Also, I should mention that learner type 2s really look for facts and data to support what the experts say. They want to know what the experts say, and they're always going to look for facts and data to support their own findings or their own analysis. And so whereas learner type 1 really values personal experience and can take that as almost as a form of data. Learner type 2s are going to look for research or look for what experts have said before they really commit anything to memory or value. Learner type 3s are our just do it students. They are action-oriented students, and the questions that they're asking themselves as they're learning new material is, how do I do this? How can I make this better? They really want to find solutions. They're solution-based students. They want to know how something works. So they may need to take something apart and then put it back together. Learner type 3s, I've worked with students who have given me really clear examples of working in groups in like math class, where they will be put in a group to work on a problem, and learner type 3s will have solved the problem very quickly, and the other students in the group may not learn as efficiently because they'll get the answer from the learner type 3, and then the learner type 3 feels a lot of pressure to always have their answers done or always be looked to for the answer. However, learner type 3s may work so quickly that their answer may not always be correct, and that's okay, because learner type 3s prefer instructors who will give them feedback and will coach them, so they're able to go back if their answer is incorrect. They'll go back and rework it again and rework it again to try and find the right answer. If they're just given the answer, they haven't quite learned how to do all of the steps on their own, and so they prefer to really be told with feedback how they can try again without being given the answer outright. They also learn by testing. So that's what I mean by going back and reworking the problems, is that they're testing out what works and what doesn't. They may also be really uncomfortable with open-ended assignments or tasks because they work very quickly and they're looking for a solution. So let's use the essay example again. If they're given an essay assignment with an open-ended question, similar to, explore what your preferred careers or your preferred career might be after college, they may need the instructor's feedback to come back to them so that they can revise the essay again before they're actually ready to hand in a completed essay. So instructors who give them opportunities to rework those essays are, in fact, the kinds of instructors that will suit learner type 3s. Learner type 3s will enjoy working in small groups if all the other learners are type 3s. And can you just take a second to think of why? You've listened to what learner type 1s are like in groups. You've listened to what learner type 2s may be like in groups and how they may, dislike that or feel anxious in a group doing group work. What do you think learner type 3s may be like in a group with all different learner types? If you thought about how quickly learner type 3s answer and how it may feel a little challenging with learner type 1s who are very social and may not stay on task as quickly or be as focused at finding a solution, you are correct. Ding, ding, ding. And also, learner type 2s are very organized, so they may want to plan how they're going to and organize how they're going to solve a problem or how they're going to assign each member in the group a job or come up with an objective or like a goal before they start working. Well, learner type 3s are already, finished with solving the problem or coming up with what, they may want to just like leave the classroom with a group assignment, leave the classroom and go start working already. And so it may feel very difficult for them to slow down and the problem that they came up with may not be the right answer. So learner type 2s could be really stressed out too because they have an organized way of approaching group work. Now, if you haven't noticed already, I should stop and let you know that on your lecture notes, you are filling in the blanks based on these slides. So there's a blank next to each one of the words in bold, and you'll be filling that in. That should be helpful for you when you're studying for test 2 and also when you're making your study guide. Okay, last type learner type, is type 4. And these are our creative learners. These learners are always asking, what if I try it this way? What if we do it this way? They're a little, this daydreaming and exploration approach to learning is really great. It takes a lot of courage to enter into a structured arena of learning, a structured, organized, methodical, prepared way of learning in higher ed. In the same way, learner type 3s may be challenged as well when, coming to class, being prepared, slowing down, looking at your notes and looking at the application of the notes to what you might be doing tomorrow or what you are doing in your other classes. This can be a challenge. So it takes a lot of courage to be a person who approaches their assignments and their courses with an attitude of, what if I tried things differently than what's being offered to me now? Sorry, I'm drinking water here. when I record over the weekends, I don't talk as much. So, all right. So our learner type 4, they think out of the box. Ordinary assignments, ordinary, ordinary. Everything looks ordinary, I'd say, because I'm part type 4 learner. So I remember in college being given assignments, and I just really wanted to put a personal spin on it, but it was difficult for me to stay focused on just the assignment because I was constantly thinking about what if I tried it this way, or what if I added another element or another layer to this just to see what it would be like. Maybe it would be more exciting to me. The challenge with this, though, is staying focused and staying on task, because as a creative person, always looking at other ways to approach completing an assignment. I mean, it can take this type of learner a lot longer to complete an assignment because they are trying so many different ways, and they're exploring so many different creative approaches to an assignment. And this is exactly why I say it takes courage for learner type 4s in a learning environment that is very structured, because they need to take risks. They like to take risks because it edifies something in them. It sparks inspiration in them to learn more if they can put their personal spin on something, and if it is really interesting to them, if they're engaged in the material. And when I talked about that basic way of the basic assignments for them, that may seem very basic. Now, that very structured and basic way of learning is super, super good because it's digestible. It's focused. Learner type 2s may have to balance out this creative energy and this daydreaming and complicating or challenging themselves with what's given to them, or what they need to learn, what's most important to learn, the objective of each assignment. And this challenge comes with learning through trial by error. And this is also how learner type 3s, this kind of is a similarity between learner type 4s and learner type 3s. There's failure involved with the things that they approach, because they are, that feedback is really important for helping them redo assignments so that it's more focused, so that the assignment is more in a line with what the instructor's asking for. And they really want instructors who allow them to have room and space to try out new and different ways of approaching their assignments. And my advice, if you're willing to take it, for any learner type 4s out there, is to really communicate to your instructors about what interests you, what engages you. Because I found when I was an English major in college, when a prompt was given to me for an assignment, if I went to the instructor and asked, what if I, instead of using this particular story or responding to this particular story, what if I use this story, because this story really interests me and I think there's a lot here that I can work with? The instructor oftentimes was willing to listen to what I had to say. However, I needed to start earlier than other students so that I could interact with the instructor and get feedback. Because I was doing something different. I need to make sure it was along the lines of what the instructor was asking, and that I was meeting all the objectives that the instructor had laid out for that assignment. So learning independently is wonderful. We just need to communicate with an instructor about the way that we want to approach something, and that it takes us longer. So we need, not that we need extensions, but we're going to get started early and ask for help when we need it. Learner type 4s appreciate working in small groups when all the members in the group are creative. And this is really similar to the reasons why learner type 3s enjoy working with other, well, not necessarily enjoy, but they are open to working with other learner type 3s. Very similar. Learner type 4s need space to throw out ideas and try out these ideas and see if they're working. And learner type 1s are going to want to talk about every one of these ideas and ask this learner type 4, well, how do you think this is going to work out? Or have you done this before? And learner type 4 may not have. And they also may just get in a, may get off task a little bit. Learner type 2s are always going to ask learner type 4s, well, how is this going to work? What is the objective of that? How are we going to get from A to D? Let's organize this. Let's look. And learner type 4s will already have a new idea, or, they may, it may not be as fun when they start organizing the idea and putting it to task. However, that is a great complement. Learner type 4 and learner type 2, if they can stretch themselves to blend and work together, that is a wonderful complement, because you've got someone putting, the steps in order before we, trial by error. But learner type 4 really learns by trial by error. So, they've got to stretch themselves as well to visualize in their minds what it may look like if they use those steps suggested by learner type 2. And with learner type 3s work really fast, and they want to be able to also see how this idea is going to work. And so, they want to see it in real time, in real life. And learner type 4s are really they're very good at ideas. So remember that we're a blend of all of these different type of learners. So none of us are purely one over the other. And in all of these different learner types, we are depending on the environment, the learning environment we're in and the assignment we're given, we may lean more to our preferred learning style. And so if you have two learning preferences that are equal, or three that are equal, some students are very near equal in all four. Well, it just depends on the teaching style that you're learning from, the assignment, the environment, all of that. Okay, so what we're trying to do is, if we have a learning style that is a diamond or is kind of shifted, one area is pulled more than the other, what we're trying to do is get to where we are more like a square, okay? So we're balanced in all of those learning quadrants that you see on your LTM. So look at your scores in each quadrant there. And look at how any of the numbers may be close to each other or drastically different, and look at your blend. Consider what kinds of learning environments and assignments you really enjoy, and see how that works for you. What is true and what is not true for you. All right, we're moving on. Now we're going to move to the watching and doing score, where I said we have negative scores and positive scores. This just means that negative, if you're on the negative side, closer to, it goes as high as -12, that means you're a real, I believe, doer. Oh my goodness, hold on one second. Let me just make sure I have this correct. I only just saw this now. Watching and doing. Okay, watching is negative or it's positive. I'm sorry about this. Okay, no, I think I have it correct. Negative is watching. Okay. All right. Oops, let's go to new share. We're going to go back to the slides. Great. All right. So if you have -12 up to -12, you're really high on the watching, the reflective type of learner. If you have +12, you are really high on the doing side. You're a doer, okay? So recognize that, and then we're going to move on. What this means is watchers are students who learn best when they're able to digest and reflect on what they're learning. They want to watch somebody they need examples. They want to watch what the instructor's doing or what somebody is doing, even if you're a learner type 1, what another classmate is doing in order to best know how to approach an assignment or learning material, studying. They work best when it's quiet and on their own so that they can digest. So this might be like a learner type 1 who likes to socialize and learn, and then they need to go home and digest everything that they learned and try it out for themselves. They also want to look for ways to apply what they've learned. So it's not just conceptual, but they're able to apply in real time what they've learned. They're very analytical in the way that they want to know the 5 W's, 1H. They're detailed learners. They're going to ask all the really specific questions before they do something themselves. So a good example, let's say, is when we're new on a job and our manager wants us to, we're working in sales maybe at a shop, and our manager says, okay, you're going to go work on the floor. And a watcher might really feel a lot of anxiety about, well, what am I supposed to do out there? So they may ask the manager, can I shadow you for a day so that I can see how you go about doing things before I go and do it on my own? And that's, if you're communicating that as a watcher, that's fantastic. I need an example. You may ask your instructor, can you give us an example so that we can do this at home and remember how to do it? And then doers really want to get out there and they want to try it out for themselves. They're hands-on learners. They may make some errors as they're learning, but that's how they learn. It's important for them to make errors so that they can learn the next time. They work really quickly as well. So if a manager, the same manager says, I'm going to put you on the floor today, and you can learn by talking to other your coworkers or from customers, and you'll figure it out. Doers will be really someone who's really high on the doer scale will be very excited that that's gonna suit them well. They again will look maybe learn on the job or learn during group work or learn in group study time, like as they're studying. Their approach is much more about listening to different approaches and they're learning as they're doing is what I'm saying. So creating a study guide together with another student or other students is a really good way for a doer to learn how to make a study guide. Again, they want real world application. They're asking themselves, how does this work? How can I use this? And then they're also good at reciting and repeating things in order to learn and commit them to memory. So they might not just sit back and reflect and think about how they're going to do something so that they remember how to do it. For instance, for my job, I will think about the next day, what I need for the next day, or this lecture. You know, you saw me make an error there about, gosh, did I do the scale correctly on the watcher and doer slide? And you saw me look to see if I did that correctly because, you know, I tend to be a fast worker and to make errors. And then when those errors are brought to my attention, I then remember a lot better for the next time how to do something. So, you know, I sat down and wrote out what I was going to talk about and what slides we were going to go through, what you needed. So I tried my best to look ahead at what I needed to organize for this lecture. But then again, moving through the slides, right then and there, I was able to double check. And, you know, and that is just a really strong way for me to remember next time that it is correct. The scale is correct. Okay. Now, if you want to learn more information on these quadrants and these different types of learners, you can go to this website. And I'm not going to test you on information that comes off of this website, but just for your deeper learning or to help you digest the information better, you can go there to look for more information. So as you are, as we close this lecture here and you're going through to prepare for the second lecture and just, you know, applying this to your other classes and yourself as a learner, here are some questions to ask yourself. Things that, you know, will help digest this lecture better. So you can ask yourself, how can knowing my preferred way of learning help me in lectures? So how is this information pertinent to my classes when I'm sitting in classes during lectures? And how can knowing what type of learner I am help me to study more deeply or more effectively? And how can my preferred way of learning help me when I work with others in a group who may be other types of learners? And lastly, and you know, importantly for so many students, I hear this, you know, this wanting to apply this to the rest of your lives in your career. So how can knowing my preferred way of learning help me choose a rewarding career and help me to apply it as an employee? All right, so we're going to move on to lecture 2, or the rest of the slides in lecture 2. But I thank you for joining me here in lecture 1 and being very patient with me as I looked for errors. For lecture 2, again, you will need your lecture notes again beside you, just as a refresher, and the same paper that you used for the activity in this lecture, we're going to revisit in lecture 2. All right, thank you so much, and see you in the next lecture. Oops, I need to escape. Still learning. All right, bye-bye, guys.